What's going on, everybody? Gem Mint here, and happy new comic book day. Happy free comic book day this Wednesday, August 11th. You know how we do it. We're going to go through this week's comics as spoiler-free as possible. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video, and hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. We do have a new sponsor for this video for John Unlimited. John Unlimited Rocket Soul Series 1 is a new graphic novel by independent artist and writer T.L. Tino. John Unlimited Rocket Soul is being crowdfunded on Indiegogo right now. This completed 130-page graphic novel is only $12, and it'll ship just 1 month after the campaign is completed. John Unlimited is a superhero spy thriller which features the exploits of John going from his origins as a child, learning his ailment or abilities, to his current role fighting crime. Support an independent creator and back John Unlimited Rocket Soul Series 1 today. Alright, and I did have a couple of books from my last week's haul that I didn't get to read. I picked them up, so let's just go ahead and quickly talk about Lucky Devil issue 1. This is by Cullen Bunn. He's joined by Fran Galan and L. Torres. I love this issue, man. This would have been a strong pick of the week contender had I had it last week. It's about this guy, this loser. He's a loser in everything, in his relationship, at work. He's kind of like the doormat that everybody just walks all over until he just can't take it anymore, and he unleashes this demon within him who gives him these powers. He goes on this murderous rampage, and there's a little hook at the end as to how that all plays out. Thought it was super interesting. Cullen Bunn absolutely killing it on the horror-inspired comics, and this one feels like a fun run. Then from Aftershock, we have Out of Body issue 3. This is by Peter Milligan, Inaki Miranda, and Eva de la Cruz. So this one felt like more of the same. I mean, you have our main character. He's stuck in this coma. His astral form is trying to find answers, who killed him, and huge revelations on his personal life. If you guys recall, in the first issue, he was having an affair with his friend's wife, and she was his partner at work, and that kind of has a whole new dynamic in this issue. I thought it was interesting, and I like how they're picking out like random people in this universe and showing them dying and going to like this limbo area, walking into the light, and our main character happens to bump into one of them, and I like how they bleed those stories together. Since issue 1, I think that this run has done a really good job of like balancing multiple threads and making them intertwine, making for an interesting and fun read without a dull moment. Then we had Firepower issue 14 by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samney with Matt Wilson and Russ Wooten. I really dug this issue. I feel like it was one of the stronger issues of Firepower that we've read recently. I really like the aspect of, you know, his daughter now has the firepower within her, but you know, she's trying to channel it and use it on a whim. It's something that's only been emotionally available to her, and then the son's trying to learn the firepower as well, and we finally get the confrontation we've all been waiting for. I guess I could semi-spoil it since it's from last week, but the girl from his past meeting his wife and helping save them from these serpent enemies. But when were you going to tell me your ex was still alive type of thing? So this was a well-paced, exciting, interesting issue. All right, and let's jump into the physical copy. So huge stack of books, and I don't even have my Marvel books physically. I had to read them digitally. Diamond, slacking again. You can't be slacking, especially now that you have competition. But shout out to Diamond, man. Anyway, let's talk about the free comic book day books. We have Enter the House of Slaughter. If you guys are unfamiliar with the free comic day books, they're kind of like little previews comics. They give you sometimes a few short stories, a lot of advertisements, kind of plugging what is next in that run. So House of Slaughter by Tynion, Deledria, and Muerto. This is interesting. This kind of shows the events from that first big arc with Erica Slaughter in the town, and when the House of Slaughter came to her rescue. Like, what did that look like from a different perspective? And I really enjoyed it. It was nice to see, or go back to that arc, since we've been in this new arc with young Erica. So that was interesting. Same kind of looming and dreadful artwork, especially with these characters from the House of Slaughter. Their eyes just cut through the page and stare you down. So definitely an awesome issue, and I hear people are like specking on this for some reason. I'm not even sure what the big deal is. All right, then we have SpiderMan Venom. This is like a two-story comic. You have Wells, Gleason, and Sanchez. Then you have Ewing with Ron V, Hitch, Curie, and Sinclair. So a couple of these Marvel books are teasing us what it's going to be like with these new creative teams on these books. So now we know what it's going to be like with Dylan's Venom as written by Al Ewing and Ron V. We get, I don't even know if this is a spoiler, so I'm not going to say who it is, but this new Spider-Man costume design is awesome. I love who the character is. I love the throwback to that era of comics. Yeah, I guess that's it. That new Spider-Man costume and that Dylan Brock Venom thing, and then we get some, what's Eddie Brock doing now these days, now that he's the King in Black. So you get that in here. This was a great issue, especially if you want a little epilogue on the Donny Cates Venom stuff. Then we have the Batman Free Comic Book Day by Ridley, Tiny, and Jimenez, Foreman, Ratman, Morey, and Lucas. Man, I think this was some of the strongest Batman art that I've seen on this entire Rebirth run, if we can even call it that anymore. Batman introducing Fear State. It also has like a 5 or 6 page I Am Batman Zero, which is actually out today as well, so it's the same couple of pages. So that story, kind of Scarecrow unleashing something new on Batman. Really interesting. Batman was freaked the hell out, and I'm telling you, the artwork was amazing. Some of the best I've seen on Batman in a while. Same with the Suicide Squad King Joker. The backup story is basically the first 10 pages of Suicide Squad Get Joker, which came out last week. This one was a King Shark story. Yeah, it ties in with the movie. We're getting the movie Suicide Squad. You see John Cena's Peacemaker. You have King Shark and his deal with Amanda Waller, because he's essentially like a god, right? Some kind of water god. But he's in prison, so we understand how that works, like contractually with his people in the ocean, and how he's able to, like, go on visits. What do they call it when you're allowed to visit and you're locked up? I can't even think of it. Anyway, it was a fun little King Shark issue. Then we had Judge Dredd by All Star Comics. This had 3 issues. Al Ewing was part of this, Caspar Wingard, Rob Williams, Simon Fraser, Michael Corral, and John Higgins. It had 3 stories. I really enjoyed 2 of them. One of them was kind of like, you're in the world of Judge Dredd, you're in the mega city, and you can see how hardcore they are on preemptive crimes, right? And even like, you got a guy undercover, but then an undercover watching the undercover, and people can get in trouble for merely thinking of pulling off a crime. The second story was about a retiring judge. I don't really remember much of it, but the third story was really cool. It was kind of like the beginning of the Judges, where the cities just got out of hand, and they really tied it in with real world events, with rioting and police activity and sending in the judges, and kind of how that started, how unaccepted it kind of was at first, because when we're reading Judge Dredd, or when you've seen the movies, like, we're already in that world, so it's very interesting to see the beginning of it. So I really did enjoy the Free Comic Book Day Judge Dredd. And then we have the Avengers. Man, so the Avengers story was awesome because it's a Deathlock story. I love Deathlock, and I like how he's like the cop of the multiverse in Marvel now. That was super dope, and I really like how he's going to these different Earths, and one Earth is like, what if Atlantis never fell, and all the Avengers are like Atlanteans, and then he goes into another Earth. So I'm interested to see where that goes. I think with Avengers 50, I'm going to jump on, because I definitely want to read what happens here. And then Hulk, we get a little tease of Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley's Hulk. We kind of get what the synopsis is going to be for that run. What type of Hulk are we dealing with here? Very different from what Al Ewing was doing, and I'm super hyped, man. It's kind of like, where are we going to go with this? But I'm interested to see where Donny Cates takes it, because in my opinion, everything he does is big, exciting, flashy, and fun. So down with the Hulk. And then we had the Valiant Free Comic Book Day. It had a Ninjak story, I think 2 Ninjak stories with the current creative team. It had an Exo Manowar story. I'm sorry, Exo had the 2 stories. He had like kind of like a prologue to the current run, and then a little story that leads into issue 5, which I believe comes out next week or so. And then the return of Harbinger. So we've only had a couple of Valiant titles recently, right? You've had Bloodsport, we've got Ninjak, and we have Exo Manowar. So Harbinger coming back, another one of their main titles. So definitely down with that. The short story didn't really hook me. It kind of made me remember the main character, Peter something or other. But otherwise, I'm down to give it a shot when it comes out. And Shadow Man is something that they have out as well, which has actually been really dope by Cullen Bunn. Let's see, what should we go here? Marvel or DC? Well, pick of the week's Marvel, so let's start with DC. We have Batman Urban Legends issue 6. Controversial stuff going on in this issue. A lot of people are going to be pissed off with what they did with Tim Drake. A small percentage of people are going to be happy, but a lot of people are going to be pissed off. We get the end of the Red Hood story, Batman Red Hood, the cheer drops, and this cheer character, we get that epilogue. And I think it did end kind of touching, kind of like how it was in the beginning, where Red Hood tries to rescue this boy, but his mother's a drug addict, his father's like a drug dealer and doesn't give a shit. The Black Canary story was pretty cool. Black Canary going undercover, joining I don't know. Is it something to do with Checkmate? I don't know. Everything's a blur here. And then you got the Zealot story, which I always just think about Rockin' Robbie. Zealot. I can't really recall what the hell happened. It wasn't that interesting. But the Tim Drake story too, man. Already causing waves in the internet. Moving on over to Batman and Detective Comics, issue 1041 by Tamaki, Mora, and Belair. Really good issue, explosive. I love the art style. You have this guy, Mr. Worth. He's, trying to kill Batman. He's trying to kill Bruce Wayne, blames him for the death of his daughter, Sarah Worth. And Bruce Wayne's kind of down bad, man. He's lost his millions. He tries to go to all his safe houses and caves, and they've been infiltrated or destroyed. And he's kind of running low on resources here. So we get to see him throw on a different costume here, kind of a throwback, which is pretty cool. The Vile villain, which was kind of introduced in the last issue or so. We kind of see what's been going on with Vile, and a big kind of hook at the end here. Major implications to Batman with what happened. The backup story, this Road to Task Force Z, that's by Rosenberg, Robinson, and Rodriguez. Triple R. Kind of follows this reporter who's chasing down this story, and she's being threatened by the people involved. She's being threatened by Batman, everybody telling her not to follow this story, this murder or what have you. And we find out who's been leaving the breadcrumbs, which is kind of interesting at the end. So overall, enjoyed Detective. Then I went with the I Am Batman Zero. This is by John Ridley, Foreman, Ratman, and Locust. I did not like the Next Batman miniseries. I did kind of enjoy Next Batman in Future State, but I just don't think Jace Fox is an interesting character. I don't think he's likable. I don't think anybody would want to be him or want to read him or find him interesting whatsoever. Sure, we get some Batman stuff in here, and of course it's tied in with social issues similar to that Judge Dredd comic, but here, I don't know, it just kind of feels lame, man. People with masks that are rioting, and then the police trying to hold the line down, and Batman trying to interfere to help and do the right thing. I don't know. I wanted to give it a shot, but I think I'm kind of done with the Jace Fox stuff. It's just not digging it. Then we got Batman, a ton of Batman books. The adventures continue. We're talking season 2, issue 3, Burnett, Dini, Burchett, and Kubina. It's really cool to see the Huntress in the Batman animated series world. And this plays out very much like an episode from the animated series. Batgirl going up against, I forget the name, Tony Sheets or some stupid name like that. This guy... It's like these organized crime type characters from the animated series world, and he has this whole thing where he plays you a lullaby before he kills you and then gets it tattooed on him. So it was very much like an episode, and it was cool to see Huntress there. So yeah, I'm still digging it. All right, then we got Batman 89, issue 1. I got stuck with the variant. My shop didn't get the cover A for some reason, by Ham, Quinones, and Ito. So this is pretty cool, man. This is taking us into the Tim Burton Batman universe from 1989. You have Michael Keaton Batman. You have really an issue focused around Harvey Dent, the Harvey Dent from the movie, and kind of how it's Halloween and Gotham, and people are either dressing up like Batman or Joker, and both are kind of in bad taste. You have these Batman trying to patrol the cities to make them safe, kind of like in the Dark Knight trilogy. Very cool to see the Tim Burton costume in the comic, and we're going to follow this one. Then we have Future State Gotham. This is issue 4. This is by Culver and Kismedja. I don't know, man. This kind of feels out of place. It's the black and white manga inspired comic. It's pretty good. It reads like a manga. I mean, not right to left, but like the paneling, the art style, Harley Quinn versus Punchline. It was okay. It just kind of feels out of place with everything that's going on in DC right now. Like Future State. We're on to Fear State now. All right, y'all. Infinite Frontier, issue 4 out of 6 by Williamson, Peltier, Marino, Hermancio, Ratman, Fernandez, and High Five. So, as always, I'm a little bit lost on this book. I don't understand Captain Carrot or all these different multiverse people, but it was pretty cool to see the world's finest, but with President Superman from, what is it, Earth 3 or Earth 23, and Thomas Wayne. So I thought that was pretty cool. I like the idea of, like, this world knowing that the multiverse exists and what are the ramifications of that. So it was decent, but I'm just a little bit lost overall. Moving on over to the Joker, issue 6 by James Tynion, March, and Prianto. So following the exploits of Commissioner Jim Gordon overseas, trying to hunt down the Joker, and even though he found him in issue 1, still trying to hunt him down again, since I guess they went their separate ways. Kind of trying to do things the way that his handlers want him to do them, and then having to take things into his own hands. getting down and dirty detective stuff. So calling in some backup Harvey Bullock back at Gotham. And then we have a backup Punchline story. This is by Tiny and Johns and Bo. Bluebird trying to infiltrate the prison where Punchline is held incarcerated, which she's the queen of now. Doesn't seem like it flies over too well, so it's pretty interesting. It didn't really feel like Punchline or look like Punchline here, but I kind of enjoyed the story. It wasn't boring. It was interesting. Just kind of wanted to see where that's going to go. On to Justice League Last Ride. This is issue 4 by Chip Zdarsky, Mendoza, and Angiolini. So we finally find out what happened to Martian Manhunter. What happened to John Johns? Why is the Justice League mad at Batman for what happened? So we find out here in this issue, and it's really kind of touching. I really like the scene Darkseid fighting with Superman. It looks epic. It feels big. And that's what this book felt like with issue 1. I feel like it kind of fell off of that for a little while, but now we're back, action-packed, big stuff, revelations at this end of the Justice League era. DC Black Label with Rorschach issue 11 out of 12 by Tom King, Jorge Fornes, and Dave Stewart. Yo, what the hell is going on in this book, man? I mean, I get what they're doing. The detective is having a conversation with himself while the kid, the Western shooting girl, she's in the past kind of having the conversation with him. So I get that it has an interesting storytelling aspect to it. Tom King seems to really like to play with that. But that's the whole issue. I mean, like, nothing happens here. And, like, all the players and all the pieces to this story, it's just like, so what? Who was trying to kill who and set this person up and make it look like this? It's like, yo, what does this have to do with Watchmen? This got more to do with Frank Miller and Steve Ditko and comic creators than it does that. So I was going to drop Wonder Woman. I ended up picking it up because it's issue 777. I thought I'd get lucky. When Wonder Worlds collide. Cloonan, Conrad, Lupacino, Vaughn, Grawbadger, and Belair. I did enjoy this better than the last issue, which just was like a totally different vibe than all the other issues of the same arc. This one, Wonder Woman, she thinks she's going back to Earth. She ends up on a different Earth, which is run by women, except for Wonder Man here. So Wonder Man on the cover is kind of like the outcast of the Justice League in this world. So on Diana's way back to Earth. Ever since Dark Knight's death metal, she's ascended and been in all these godlike realms. She's trying to make her back way to Earth, but she ends up on the wrong Earth and has a little adventure here. So there you go. Before we jump into Marvel, let's talk about some Image books. I read Ordinary Gods issue 2. This is by Kyle Higgins, Wantabe, William, and Cowles. And I really like this issue. I like the kind of themes they're playing with here and the ideas that we're having, where gods are kind of stuck in these human bodies. They're from a different realm, but they've been kind of trapped in human bodies, and they get tapped kind of like the Matrix style, and they figure out who they are, and they're not part of this human life that they thought they were. So that's kind of where we're going here, trying to sell this guy on you're really a god and proving it to him. So he's still dealing with the fact that his parents are dead and his sister tried to kill him and everything because she's really a god inhabiting a body as well. So kind of fun, interesting, different stuff from Kyle Higgins. And then the Silver Coin, issue 5. This is kind of like the end of the arc. Like, if it didn't sell well, this would have been the last book. But it's Covenant by Michael Walsh, who had a hand in all the other issues as well, but with different writers. So he had a little epilogue here saying, hey, it didn't suck, it didn't fail, so we're going to have issue 6. And he name dropped all the new writers that are going to be joining along. This is kind of like the origin of this silver coin. How did this silver coin come into existence? And it kind of did tie in with another issue, so making it not so much an anthology. I mean, kind of an anthology, but it did connect a little bit with the guy on the cover here. Very cool stuff. The stuff with the goat was disgusting. People kind of getting their dues for betraying her. It was a great issue. All right, guys, so on to Marvel with Defenders issue 1 by Al Ewing, Javier Rodriguez, and Alvaro Lopez. So I thought that the paneling was really good on this issue. I really like how they kind of mapped out each page, and everything was kind of like a big, elaborate story within itself. Basically, Doctor Strange recruiting this new Defenders, which you can see on the cover. It's got Red Harpy, it's got Silver Surfer. I forget who the other two even are. It was just okay. I mean, I didn't really love this story. I'm not going to give away the end. The hook is kind of what keeps me interested to read on, but the issue was kind of just flipping through tarot cards and trying to put together the new team. Daredevil issue 33, Chip Zdarsky, Chichetto, and Menez. So Daredevil's been up and down for me, I think for most people, but I think this was an upper issue. The art style was great. Chichetto back on the art. So we know Bullseye's back in the picture, but it's a little bit more than just dealing with Bullseye. Epic battle between Elektra as Daredevil with Bullseye to the point where she really needs to call for some help. I'm kind of a little bit lost on what's going on with Matt Murdock in jail. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but it kind of, did I miss something? Is he the king of jail now? So that was pretty interesting, but the art style was great. I like the interaction between Elektra and some other Marvel heroes who come to her aid, so it was pretty cool. All right, then on to X-Force issue 22 by Percy, Gill, and Guru EFX. Not digging this issue at all. Like, felt like a filler issue. The X-Men with all these plant things again. I mean, not Man-Thing, but Man-Slaughter, and then this other plant-type creature, and it's the battle of the plants. Too many plants. Yeah, and it just wasn't interesting. It didn't feel like an X-Force book. I mean, they threw Wolverine in there a little bit, but that was about it. But otherwise, man, I just thought it was kind of whack. XMen Legends number 6, Peter David with Todd Newick and Rachel Rosenberg. This was another one that I just kind of felt was a little dull. You know, I guess I get that it's a throwback 90s X Factor, and this wraps up the arc. It looks like we're moving to some Wolverine, Lady Deathstrike next, which I'm kind of excited for, actually. But we figure out why X Factor is on trial, what happened, what transpired to get them in trouble, Havoc, basically melting a police car. I don't know, something along those lines. The Doctor Doom interaction was pretty fun. I think that's kind of what saved it for me. But otherwise, this little 2-issue arc was just whatever. Then we have the finale of Spider-Man's Spider's Shadow by Chip Zdarsky, Pascal Ferry, and Matt Hollingsworth. I don't know. It just didn't feel like it was an epic finale. I don't know. I mean, I guess it tried to be epic. Basically, at this point, the symbiotes are controlling the Fantastic Four. They're controlling the Avengers. Peter Parker's got to do everything on his own with Mary Jane, who's helping him. It was okay. You know, I don't want to spoil anything, so, I mean, what can I really say about this? Peter Parker comes up with a plan with the Human Torch and Mary Jane to defeat the Reed Richards symbiote, so yeah, that's the end. There is a little hook, a post-credit scene, if you will, that could continue Spider Shadow potentially with an interesting combination of Spider-Man villain and symbiote. So that was pretty cool. But otherwise, I don't know. Didn't really land for me. And as I was reading this week's polls, it was a lot of books. But you know, as you notice, a lot of stuff was a little lackluster for me. It was kind of hard to come up with a pick of the week. But when I thought back, really, I wanted to give pick a week to the book from last week, the Cullen Bunn book. But I ended up going with Fantastic Four Life Story issue 3, the 1980s by Mark Russell, Sean Isaacs, and Nolan Woodard. I just felt like this one was the most interesting, the one that really stuck out the most in my head. There's so much going on here, kind of like a missile crisis with the Soviets and the United States, and this big theme on how computers are able to detect this, computers are able to detect if we're being attacked, but Reed Richards still obsessing over Galactus. He's lost everything. He's living like a bachelor with Ben Grimm, and Johnny Storm is kind of like the liaison between him and Sue. We have Franklin Richards in this issue, and I don't know, just interesting stuff, like Reed Richards trying to convince the government that they need to form this defensive organization that could prevent against Galactus, but they're more worried about the internal enemies, like I said, like the Soviets and everything. And you can see with the missiles on the front, that's like the big confrontation here. It was interesting. It was the most touching, I think, out of everything I read, and that's why I gave it pick of the week. Man, those were a lot of books. Let me know what your pick of the week was in the comments below. What do you think about Batman Urban Legends and everything that's going on with Tim Drake? Sound off below. And like I said, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. We're doing a giveaway once we hit 150K, and we're giving away a Deja Thor's premium format. So make sure to comment on as many videos as you can, because once we hit the milestone, we'll go live, pick a random video where I promoted the giveaway, and use a random YouTube comment generator to draw a worldwide winner. But that's going to be it for today. I appreciate you watching, but don't go anywhere. Check out last week's new comic book day reviews. Check out the top 10 comics of the week with Rock and Robbie from last week, and stay tuned to the channel for the end of the week, and we'll count down this week's top 10. Thanks, guys. Stay minty fresh. Peace.